And I was studying at the Lewis and Clark Law Library which is where Hines went to school, who's connected to John Kerry, who's also part of the Navy or the Air Force in a career sense. And then Adam's family was from California, and Mike Tanzer's family was from California. So it's possible that they knew each other as well. And one time I went out with Adam, and it was after they gave me wine at the law library. They were passing around glasses of wine to all the students and to the people in the Lewis and Clark Law Library. And so Adam gave me some while I was in the library. Gave me a glass. And I thought it was fine. And then after that, he wanted to go out with me to go dancing. And it was fine. I drove home. I just had a little bit of wine, and there was nothing weird about it. Then he wanted to go dancing with me one time. So I did go out with Adam, and I went dancing with him at the same place where I first saw Mike when I was picking up my scarf, my shawl. And I had too many drinks, and then something happened with him, and so that's potentially another federal employee. And I never wanted to talk about it because I felt so like it made me look like I was a slut, or that I had invited some of these things, but I hadn't. In every situation, they knew that I was not interested in having any kind of a sexual encounter with any of them. With Adam, I kissed him publicly in the bar, but I never had any intention. I asked him to take me home, and I never had any intention of doing anything with him ever. And he knew that. I wouldn't say that anyway, I think the most striking thing, the thing that's most obvious, is that these people all work for the federal government. They all probably know each other. I think they're all connected in different ways. And I think that that's part of the reason they didn't want to be discovered. They didn't want one guy to get cited for rape when they knew that potentially the rest of them could get charged with date rape, and that it would then spiral out into other individuals. They didn't want a jury to hear about my sexual history and the names of the people who were involved, because they didn't want people to figure out how they were all connected to each other and how they had targeted me. And had that come out into the open, it would have been very clear that I was being targeted and assaulted when I was incapacitated, and it had nothing to do with my personal history. I also think that part of the reason this was done is because some of the legal opponents that I had wanted to tarnish my reputation and make me look shoddy, because they didn't have anything on me. I think they wanted to make me look like I was a promiscuous person after they defamed me as, giving people sexually explicit email, which I never did. So I think that was possibly another reason why that was done to me. I think it was part of a legal strategy, which is really sick. But I think that it was part of a legal strategy with people who worked for the federal government on that end, and wanting to ruin my lawsuits and have my reputation ruined. And then I think it was federal men, employees, who had some kind of a game going. And I don't know, probably there was money involved. Probably they were trying to hurt my dad or my family or people who really cared about me. And And the thing that also is true is that all those individuals, they knew that I was an MK Ultra kid when I was very little. So they took advantage of me and exploited me on several different levels. They knew my history when I didn't know it, and they went after me and they attacked me, and then after they didn't want to get caught for what they did, then they decided to torture me full blown. So, okay, one of these individuals that's involved during this time is, yes, presidential hopeful John Kerry, who's connected to the military, to the Department of Defense. There's no way that he didn't know that I had implants in me, microchips, where Mike Tanzer could be surveilled, or anyone, including the Heinz guy. And there's no way that they didn't know I was, being targeted with these military assaults. So after so basically it was Mike, and then there was Adam in the mix, and I don't know that he might have known one of those guys. Then there was Raul and Garza showing up, FBI, and wanting to get into my apartment, and I think tried to set me up and hoping to find drugs or something to use against me right after I had been with Mike Tanzer, who I believe was a federal employee, and he was connected to John Kerry, which is military. So from Mike Tanzer, then it was the FBI, and Robin Bechtold, of course, another date rapist, didn't want me to be reporting Garza and Buhanda. And then after that, when they didn't pick me up to get my car out of the garage, then I was running into Dylan, who was friends with Ryan Barnes, and he was, I believe, another federal employee. And after Dylan, and he was showing up, Dylan was showing up, and I was going out with this guy, Jonathan, who appeared out of nowhere when Krista Schneider didn't show up at a bar that she was going to meet me at one night. So after I had talked to Julia Thornton, I went out with Dylan again, and then I was at his house, and then that's when I left his house when he tried to date rape me. He tried, and he wasn't successful, because by that time it suddenly snapped in my mind, what's happening to me? This is happening to me again. This is another man who is doing the exact same thing that's been happening. And that's when I got up and I said I'm leaving, and he said, you can't, you're too drunk to drive. And I said, but I'm not too drunk for you to have sex with me. And then I took off and I left, and I think he was freaked out that I was going to be evaluated for any kind of contact with me. Because if I had gone to a hospital, if I had gone directly to a hospital, I could have proven, basically his part was right there. So there was not a full penetration at all, because I jumped up and got out. But he was right there. And there could have been definitely some forensic evidence of that. And the fact that I was completely incapacitated. If I had gone and had my alcohol levels measured, that would have proven that right away. So one of the first things people wanted to know, like Julia Thornton, was, had I gone to a hospital, where did I go after I left Dylan's house? And he wanted to know that as well. So did Krista. So after I left his house, and I burst into tears, realizing that, not understanding the definition of date rape and gangbang from the federal government, not completely understanding those definitions, I broke down and sobbed, because I did know that they were systematically doing something really horrible to me, and I couldn't believe that it had happened again. And that's when I decided, I'm not staying in the state of Oregon. I'm not safe here. And I told Julia Thornton that, and they panicked. And I think they panicked because they probably wondered if I was figuring things out. And then when I did talk to, after I moved to Washington, right after I talked to the SSAs from Washington, D.C., Mike Tanzer called me. And he hadn't called me for a couple months, and then all of a sudden he calls my grandmother's house out of the blue and he wanted to talk to me. And I felt that that was a sign that he was wanting to talk to me after I'd talked to the FBI because I mentioned his name. And he had to be connected to the FBI because someone must have tipped him off and said, why don't you try calling her? Just like Raul Buhanda tried calling me after I reported him. Basically, I felt that his reason for calling me was to probably try to make it sound like he was interested in me, or try to get me to go out with him again, or sound friendly to him as if he'd done nothing wrong, or something like that. So I never did return his call, and that's why. It's because I felt that he was connected to the FBI. They tipped him off, and they had him call me. So I'm going to take a break, and then I will get into some of the things that were happening on a legal front, and then when I was being obstructed from traveling, and all of the other things that happened as well.